God used the ravens in a special way to supply Elijah with meat and food while he was residing at the brook Cherith, while Ahab was out searching for him. And it was because of the ravens that he was able to live. They brought him food in the morning and the evening, and we've taken that kind of as a storyline for us to share with others how God in unusual ways has been supplying our needs here at Ironwood. We started doing this through the pandemic, and it was kind of an interesting way because God has definitely in the last year or so really supplied in unusual ways for us. But as we begin to think back in our ministry, this is not a new thing. This is something God's been doing with us here in the ministry for many, many years. And I want to share with you today some of those raven stories that revolve around this great big bulldozer that God gave us back in the early days of this ministry. And it was about 20 years old when we got the machine. The machine weighs about 32,000 pounds. The big blade on the front of it, the great big huge bulldozer blade, weighs another 10,000 pounds. So it's about 42,000 pounds total in weight. And it's just a huge old machine. And when you're driving down the road with it here at Ironwood, you're driving on the dirt road. If anybody's standing within 100 feet of it, they can feel the ground shaking. So what do we use it for? Well, we used it for all kinds of things here. Back in 1973, when we first got the property, one of the first things we wanted to do here was to dig out a big lake so that we could have a place for swimming and canoeing and a lot of really fun activities here in a desert camp. Water was really a very essential thing. So we contracted with a nearby farmer, and he agreed to a very good contract with us on digging out this lake. He had a little D6 bulldozer and would work on it in between his hay crops and that kind of stuff. And it just kind of drug out for 7 or 8 months. And we realized that, number one, it was very expensive to pay somebody else to do this. And number two, we were at the mercy of somebody else's time schedule. About the same time that we got this property, Mr. Chastain had also decided to move from where he lived to another location, and he had bought a raw piece of land of about 3 acres, and he needed to do some grading on that property for his own house. He had an associate, business associate, who owed him some money, who owned this machine. And so he talked to the guy, and the guy ended up giving him the machine in lieu of what he was owed. And so Chuck took the bulldozer over to his property where he was going to build his house, and his whole intent was to use it to build the house and then donate it to the camp. Well, they did that, only problem was that bulldozer at the time, now remember, this bulldozer was built in 1955. And so it was kind of a first off the line within the first 1,000 that were ever built, and it didn't have a roll bar on it. And by 1973, why OSHA had required all dozers to have roll bars and that kind of thing, and an OSHA inspector had seen that bulldozer working at his property and had waited until it got loaded to put on a truck to drive up here and deliver it to us at the desert, and he stopped it and cited it for not having a roll bar. Well, when Chuck got that, why, he sent the bulldozer down to a large equipment place in Los Angeles, and they put on a roll bar. Pretty expensive thing, almost as much as he had paid for the tractor. And but in the process, while it was sitting there in the yard, the people who were running that equipment place decided to use it on a job. And in using it on the job, a huge tree fell over on top of it. And they said they were testing out the roll bar. Well, it didn't hit the roll bar. It landed on the hydraulics and the hood and caused quite a bit of damage. Well, they fixed all that, but Chuck kept after them, and in exchange for not doing anything about the fact that they had taken this machine without permission to use it. They gave us a roll bar for free. They gave us a winch truck, a Dodge Power Wagon winch truck. They put a cable operating machine thing on the back of it so that we could use it for grading property, and put probably $4,000 or $5,000 worth of stuff onto this machine. So when it came here, in actuality, the way it came to us, it came almost as a Raven story. That God was supplying over and above what we thought we could handle ourselves, and giving us more than we had bargained for. So Chuck, from the very beginning, saw the need for this, and he supplied the resources to get that bulldozer here. We had the bulldozer delivered to us in the spring of or the winter of 1973-74, and it was unloaded here, and we began to use it around the camp ministry. And then lo and behold, I get this phone call from Mr. Chastain, and he says, "Hey, Walt," he said, "you know," he was working for a land development company that was building and doing all the grading for about a 2,000 acre development down in Pacific Palisades. And he said, "You know, have you heard about that Alaska pipeline?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, because they're building the Alaska pipeline, those people building that thing came through California and Oregon and Washington here on the West Coast and bought up every machine that anybody would sell, and hauled them all up to Alaska to help build that pipeline." He said, "There is a real lack of machinery here, and the outfit that's doing the grading for my project here has offered to lease our HD16. And I said, "Well, we use that for a lot of things around here." He says, "Yeah, but here's the deal. They'll give us $2,500 a month for leasing this thing, plus they'll take care of all the maintenance on it during that time. And all they want to do is have that machine available so that when they do the final grade on a lot, we're not talking about moving a whole lot of dirt, but just skimming it off, and it's going to be kind of light work." Well, I hate to give it up, but that sounds pretty good. And he says, "Okay, I'll send the truck up." And they pick up our machine that we've been using so much, and they take it away. And it was a sad day for us, but we started getting these checks in the mail. We had it leased out for about a year and a half. And one year we got $26,000. It wasn't quite a full year the first time. And then the next year got $18,000. And that money at that time made the difference, I think, in the early survival of this ministry. It was just really key to get those funds in here to pay for all kinds of things around the property. This machine was an excellent tool for us. And it reminds me of a formula I used years ago when I was teaching economics, which was MMW equals NR plus HE times T. And the MMW stands for Man's Material Welfare, equals NR, which is natural resources, plus human energy. Human energy, you gotta combine human energy, mental or physical, with the natural resources to produce anything. But how much you can produce is dependent on the T, which is tools. And so once we had this bulldozer, why, it's almost like for a carpenter who used to using a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, so he's gonna pound with his hammer. For us, once we had that bulldozer, anytime we could figure out a way to use the bulldozer instead of anything else, we did. Now that's a Raven story. That's an unusual way that God used to supply our needs here at Ironwood.